From the air, the sight was breathtaking. From the ground, though, the sights were heartbreaking. South Texas, literally a swamp filled with the shattered ruins of what used to be homes, businesses, whole farms, and futures. The downstream damage as the flooded Guadalupe and San Antonio rivers surged down toward the Gulf. Days after the floods brutalized San Antonio and nearby towns, the waters reached new targets. First in the flood's path, Cuero, a small town facing big trouble.
About a quarter of this town was underwater. The downtown area and hundreds of nearby homes hit hard. The people hurting.
The part of the town that got hit, they didn't have much to start off with, and now they've got even less than that. And it's words just can't describe it.
Joe Anzualda's words tell a tale of despair.
We moved everything up, but it didn't do no good because it got all the way to the top. So we lost everything we had.
This is Highway 72 that goes through Cuero. No cars on this highway today. The only way you travel it is by boat. The roads that aren't underwater are lined with people trying to get back home.
Bring them out. Come on, sir.
Looting forces the National Guard into Cuero. Special permits, the only way you'll get in.
If they're stopped and they don't have a permit, they're going to leave one way or the other. They can leave on their own, or we'll give them a place to spend the night.
Tough talk here, but also concern and compassion.
In a town of 6,700 to have that many homeless, real problem. Yeah.
But there is some good news. No deaths, no injuries. Even the cats stuck in trees and dogs on rooftops survived. In Cuero, Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
Good talk. This is my son's room.
Reverend Raymond Mays says this nightmare was revealed to him in a dream weeks ago.
I had a dream that the clouds had gathered, and in the clouds, a face appeared. A voice said to me that the time that was will be no more.
What is no more is the city he called home. Changed forever, a change that came swiftly.
I didn't think it'd be anything like this until we saw the water coming from this area over here, and it's like moving in real swiftly, you know. So my husband was saying, I think we better get out of here.
Leaving behind their house and everything in it. Katie May says she didn't see it, but they told her that during the height of the flood, there was a cow up there on the roof of her house. A relative had been watching TV and saw the livestock on rooftops.
He could only see the rooftop of the house, and there was a cow on top of the house. And I said, are you sure it was our house? He goes, yeah, I recognize the neighborhood there. It was your house.
One of the few light moments in a dark day for Cuero, a city now digging out and digging for faith.
What do? Just wait on the Lord.
In Cuero, Paul Venema, KSAT 12 News.
One person's junk is someone else's spare part.
That light there is real valuable and is not cheap. And we probably have those floating around the whole yard, and it'll take days just to find what washed out.
By a torrent of water 6 foot deep, strong enough to wedge a gasoline barrel here and toss another 500-gallon container over here.
But it's still full, but it just washed it over there and set it down.
It also wreaked havoc on all their office equipment.
Maybe we can salvage some of it, maybe we can't.
Also wiped out most of their vital inventory and financial records.
I found a few checks, so we were able to pay our employees today. And that's about all we have left.
His employees grateful he was able to do that much for them because there are still bills to pay.
And all of a sudden, we didn't have a budget. It went down the drain. But getting paid, it sure helped out.
They'll have their work cut out for them trying to save a business that took 30 years to build and only minutes to destroy.
If we can gradually get back on our feet, we may, we're going to try. And it's going to take a long time. And I'm not sure we can do it.
By the time the Guadalupe closed in on Victoria, there was little doubt it would tear the town apart. The river was now several miles wide, more than 50 feet high, and all Victoria could do was wait and pray. A city that's no stranger to floods had endured more than one disaster over the past several years, but no one was ready for this flood, the worst Victoria had ever seen. It would be days of devastation and pain.
This is not how Charlie Wilkes and his wife had intended on leaving their riverfront home. In fact, they had wanted to stay put, since they say the Guadalupe was still 2 feet from reaching their front door.
They just told us what was going to happen, and it's going to be bad, and we'd been idiots to stay.
This fellow's rescue comes by boat. Same story. He says he thought he could ride it out, but now...
When all this crap gets over with, I'm going to find me a hill and move right on top of it.
One by one, they were brought in, although there are still those refusing to go to higher ground.
We saw a person in a two-story house that basically waved us off and then gave us the okay that they were okay, but that's not good thinking on their part.
The mayor of Victoria says by air he saw 600 to 700 houses underwater.
The width of the river spread out now probably 5 or 6 miles along US 59 to the south of us.
The same river is now in homes in Victoria's historic district near downtown. Many, fearing the worst, moved out of their homes Monday. Others waited until the last minute.
The only thing that we got out, it was my favorite piano for 20 years.
The Guadalupe, usually blocks away, has now found its way into their neighborhood. The flooding, the worst in Victoria's history. Rescue after rescue. Even a young woman in need of medical attention who had to be airlifted because there was no other way to get her across the Guadalupe, now 5 miles wide.
When it comes to rescues, it doesn't get any more dramatic than this. 64-year-old Larry Crisp plucked from his roof and ferried across a couple of miles of raging river in a basket.
Well, I think there's a lot of water around here.
Describe that ride down for us.
It wasn't too bad. I'd done that a long time ago in the service.
Others get out in less spectacular ways as power boats and airboats work their way through the neighborhoods. Marcus Sparks among the first out.
I was getting worried, getting pretty much worried. I was afraid something might happen to my family or something, my wife over there. We're getting turnover or something like that. And that water was swift. It was pretty powerful.
Sparks gets out with his 5 dogs, 2 cats, and a few belongings. A.J. Paterka, worried about his belongings, waits till the last minute to go.
Trying to save our stuff. We got new stuff and we're trying to save it, that's all.
But you finally just decided to come out.
Yeah, time to get out.
What made you decide it was time to get out?
Water in the house.
Well, what can you do? Now is the chance for us to say, God, we are in your hands.
Sister Sylvia Gomez is trying to say what she can from Our Lady of Sorrows Church and Convent. All across town, they're packing up, saving what they can, and getting out.
Hunter, you gonna lock up? You got everything out in the front? With both keys and stuff. We'll see you later.
Ana Gonzalez and her husband among the last to leave her neighborhood.
It's kind of surreal. I feel bad for my neighbors who already have about 4 feet of water in their house, and so I don't think it'll hit me until I actually come back and see it in here.
There's a lot of neighbor helping neighbor going on in Victoria on this day.
We need some help. They can send but 2 guys up there to load that, and if you can get some help.
73-year-old Herman Kraymeyer, all too anxious to help out. He was just forced from his 100-year-old home, a home built by his great-grandfather.
I don't think there's any good news. It's terrible. Too many people are hurting. I just can't imagine that something like this happening.
A game warden and the director of the Texas Zoo on a mission of mercy. On shore, anxious volunteers and staff, some there when the floodwaters rushed in.
It was actually like the Titanic. It was scary.
The zookeeper, who had to be rescued herself, felt she was leaving her family behind.
It's hard to sleep at night and think about them out there.
Their worries lifted as the rescue boat returned with their precious cargo. Animals that had been on rooftops, including Suki, the potbelly pig.
We're optimistic now. I mean, those animals are okay, or the ones that we were worried about are okay.
Yet their relief is mixed with sadness over those now missing.
Red Fox that we were all really attached to, and they didn't see her. That was a lot. Well, that doesn't mean they just didn't see her. That doesn't mean she's not alive. She was on the roof.
But the rest, like Ricky the Red Fox, Elizabeth Barrett Barn Owl and JJ the Mexican Eagle will join the others at a local veterinary clinic like the extremely rare red wolves, now extinct in Texas. But somewhere in the waters of the Guadalupe, 6 alligators from the zoo.
I have employees that need to be paid. I can't get to my payroll records. I can't get to my checks. I can't get to anything of that sort.
The owner of a lumber yard among those trying to get permission from the city to reach his business. A building inspector tells him, no way, not yet.
The power's going to be shut down because there's a lot of buildings in there that have moved off the foundation, various things, and there's damage and electricity, open wires, gas bubbling up out of the ground.
So all that people like Dominga Briones can do is look at her home from a distance.
Oh, desperate to get in there and start cleaning up.
Although a few have managed to get in to do what they can, with who knows what is in the murky waters, there are serious health concerns, and that means keeping people out.
No, we knew this was going to be the hardest part of it, but, you know, if they'll just bear with us, we're doing the best we can.
Still a little muddy in here.
Talk about an understatement. This is what the Guadalupe River did when it rushed into the Catholic War Veterans Hall.
Notice I picked up the refrigerator and just kind of set it up on top of a table there.
There was 5 feet of water where just days before, state conventioneers had been dancing to live music.
We still had some band instruments set up over there. Of course, we don't have flood insurance, so we'll just have to start all over.
This simple blue sign, the green light many had been waiting for.
If they say we can come back in, like I said, we're going to start cleaning up and bring our furniture back.
His home spared the worst damage, unlike Victor Magallan's mud-soaked house. He says this soggy, smelly mess is an act of God he can live with.
We've been burglarized before, and that's a lot worse feeling, you know, coming in and seeing your stuff gone.
Yet, as you can see, there are still homes and buildings surrounded by water. And until they're inspected for electrical hazards or gas leaks, their owners won't be allowed in to see the damage for themselves. In Victoria, Jessie Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
I'm Denise Valdez. We have seen the destruction the flood left behind in San Antonio and South Texas. But something else has appeared in the aftermath, something truly special. The spirit of giving and lending a hand. Everywhere the floods left people in need, volunteers came through. Stories now of giving from the heart to help ease the hurt.
We draw a line there then. Very good.
Brittany and Burgundy get help with their homework, just like any other day.
Write it correctly.
But this isn't any day. It's 4 days after the flood.
We had to walk in the water. It was so cold. It was freezing. And then...
Were you scared?
Yeah, I was panicking too.
But you never think it'll happen to you.
Time can go by just like that. Nice shirts for me here.
Like many now living in shelters, this family left with nothing, except perhaps their stories.
And they told us to stay inside the house, that somebody was coming to get us. But the water got too high for us to stay in the house, because it was like right here to me.
Burgundy's family now trying to piece together their lives. Madeline thought she'd lost hers.
Water began, it's about a foot deep. We were sitting up there with legs up there.
This is all many of these people have left, a trash bag filled with clothes, a blanket, and a borrowed cot. Still, they say they count their blessings.
Then I found a place to lay my head. Place to eat. Place to go to the restroom. I have a lot to be thankful for.
Michelle Lima, KSAT 12 News. Brawn, grit, and heart.
He still got his eye and his beak.
They are college football players tackling one tough job.
I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it's just the most Christian thing they could do, and we're grateful.
Terry Lynn's riverfront home got blitzed by the Guadalupe.
They're going to be mattresses, and they're going to be real heavy.
A little direction from Coach and the Bulldogs of Texas Lutheran University huddle up and help out.
This is absolutely devastating. I've never seen anything this horrible.
And a lot of people on the football team, so hopefully we can help these people get their lives back on track. We're trying to help them as much as we can.
It takes muscle to shovel out tons and tons of mud. When these guys are done here, they're going to move to another muddy field, the football field. They have practice in a few hours. Teamwork is something these guys know something about. They use it here, cleaning out an 80-year-old woman's ravaged home. She doesn't even know it. They don't do this to score points, but they do anyway.
I have a heavy heart and it got all light all of a sudden. Gonna be okay.
This day, the home team is a winner.
I'm gonna root them on forever.
Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
The Lozano family is picking up clothes and groceries today, but they're not shopping. This buggy full of goods will cost them nothing.
I couldn't believe it until I actually was here. I was like, wow, got everything.
Everything they lost in the flood. The Lozanos' mobile home in this park destroyed, along with all their belongings. But here, Diana can find some slippers, and baby Daniel can get a toy. James finds a jacket for the winter.
It doesn't matter to me what it is, as long as it keeps me warm.
The Lozanos can pick up sacks of groceries as well, and there's no limit. Any flood victim can take home as much clothing, food, and cleaning product as they need. This warehouse of items donated by generous San Antonians.
It's great. I didn't think there were so many people that, that actually cared and stuff like that. And they do. We wouldn't have all this.
There's really no way to measure how many tons of food and clothing is in this warehouse today, but we can tell you it took about 50 semi-trucks to get it here. And hundreds of volunteers of all ages to distribute it. Their only goal? Giving victims like the Lozano family the pieces they need to put their lives back together. Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
Building new lives from the ruin floodwaters left behind. It is the massive and heartbreaking task facing thousands of South Texans. Assistance from the government, from neighbors, even from strangers is the new foundation flood victims are building on.
Alice Ramirez is trying to rebuild her life. Her mobile home is one of about 100 here demolished by the flood.
Total devastation. It's horrible.
But yours is nothing that you can live in?
No, none of them are. All of them are total ruined.
Still, the city doing all it can to help this wrecked community.
Here we're going to be bringing our own troops in to assist with cleanup. We've got supplies, tools, and things, as you can see on the back of the trailer here.
Today we're just going to try to clean up all this debris that's got back here by Quintana and Plumner. Basically, we just try to keep the road accessible there.
A command post is set up here all week. The Red Cross on hand helping with shelter, food, even nurses administering tetanus shots. Most here have no flood insurance. Their homes tossed and broken like matchstick houses. For example, the trailer that was sitting right here on this slab is now about 20 yards away on its side. And the trailer that was in the lot next door is nowhere to be found.
My trailer completely gone. I walked all the way to the bridge on the Leon Creek, and I can't even see nothing. It even looks like it.
What you can find are instant reminders of the flood in trees, fences, and yards. For now, victims like Alice can do only one thing.
Start all over again. Start all over again.
Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
It's hard to believe
I know
that this was only last Saturday.
For 14 years, RJ and Kim Thorson have lived next to the Guadalupe. But up on a hill, not in the floodplain. And they never thought this would happen to them.
That day wasn't so bad, but these 5 days have been an eternity.
Now the federal government wants to help ease that a bit through federal grants and loans.
You get through this, go ahead.
Just one day after the president announces aid, the FEMA director assesses the damage himself.
And all that mud and muck and all that stuff is on everything, and it stinks, and cleaning it out and washing it out and tearing sheetrock off of walls, and it's in the walls, it's everywhere.
The first order of business, getting residents back on their feet. The second, prevention. FEMA is launching a pilot program in other states, one that eliminates risk before disaster strikes.
A disaster could happen, an event could happen to anyone at any given time in any community across America.
83-year-old Mary Wallace waits in line for assistance at the East Side Command Center.
Everything is gone. My mattress, I had bought a new mattress.
New television and everything, new washer and dryer, they all gone.
A diabetic and heart patient, Mary is staying with relatives with little to call her own.
I just need a place to stay. I need food, I need clothes. What I got on is all I have.
Her daughter and son walk her to the mud-filled home, even the mail coated with muck. Inside, beds are overturned, sinks filled with dirt, and clothing soaked with contaminated water. Anything salvageable is a precious find.
I got your glasses. I can see now.
This is the house the Wallace family has lived in for 20 years. Now, they are one of the few that has flood insurance, but Larry Wallace says, considering what's happened to his entire community, that insurance doesn't really make him feel any better.
I'm not relieved at all because this is a whole community that's wiped out.
The Wallaces do plan to rebuild, but amidst this devastation, it is tough to stay positive.
The frustration and the hopelessness, but I'm sure that they know that they have to go on.
Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
02670. That huge organization, the Red Cross, takes on a monumental task.
It's just a mega thing. It's bigger than big. It's because it's so spread out.
47 Texas counties hit, creating long hours for Red Cross workers.
This is Jim.
Like Jim Todd.
Typically, the average staff person is putting in about 22 hours, sometimes more.
That's a day. Cleaning up will cost, it's believed, $10 million.
This is a pretty expensive one.
Strapping the agency still dealing with damage left from recent hurricanes and flooding in Del Rio.
This is one of the most disastrous, if I can say, disastrous seasons, years in a long time in Red Cross history.
The disaster keeping volunteer Roy Lucas cooking.
And this morning we cooked 2,300, and this afternoon we cooked 1,700.
Some 8,500 families in the San Antonio area were affected by the flood. Helping them is a huge task for Red Cross workers. Some of those workers were flooded out themselves. The San Antonio headquarters completely flooded. Some volunteers were flooded out of their own homes.
Long days. By day we do disaster, by night we clean chapter.
And despite the difficulties, workers have their reasons for giving relief.
I do it because I think it's the Lord's will. I think it's the Lord's will that I come out and do these things.
Oh, the adrenaline of knowing that San Antonio, and I'm part of that community, needs us.
There's something inside of us that says, you know, these people need help, and we'll be here to help.
And no matter how strapped, the Red Cross will stay camped out here as long as people need help. Holly Weymouth, KSAT 12 News.
The flood broke apart homes and it broke apart communities, but it could not break the spirit of those who lived through the nightmare. Even in the hardest hit areas, we found stories of hope and determination.
One house of worship empty this Sunday, only humming fans and warped wood. Another brimming with voices and survivors. Wheatley Heights worshipers moved their service, but say the great flood cannot move them.
I said to our people on Thursday night that this is a challenge. And when there are challenges, we have to rise to the occasion.
Lord, be a fence around me every day. No fence could have kept out the flood. Remember this? 1 week ago, an organ caked in mud, a church building deep in disaster. And today, it's not much better. But the people are determined and devoted.
It's been very tough. However, it seems that it's bringing people together, people that you usually don't see during the week. They've been at the church fixing food, cleaning up, and trying to get our church ready, you know, to help the community. So it's really brought the church together.
God is a good God. Even in the midst of your storm, sweetie, He's still a good God.
It's hard to lose your valuables, but it'll be harder to lose your child or your husband.
Today, her husband's playing the church organ. In fact, no one in this congregation was hurt by the water. And remember this? Last weekend, an anxious groom looking for his bride. Well, she not only turned up and got married, today she sang a solo to a congregation young and old, committed to recovery. A reminder then, from one church on the east side to all of San Antonio perhaps, that life does not consist in the abundance of things, but in the abundance of spirit, which for this congregation, one flood can never wash away. Jeff Grady, KSAT 12 News.
You can't drive a mile in Zool without seeing serious flood damage or the people trying to recover and salvage their belongings.
Just tables, stuff that mostly floated, and stuff that didn't get drifted away.
But this house is beyond being saved.
Gonna leave it. I guess they're just gonna move on, find a new house.
More than a week after the floods, getting around in this community is still difficult. Here, a heavily used road is blocked by what looks like a small river.
Gotta go all the way around, take a long way around and all that.
Or are you just gonna walk through the water?
Yeah.
Down the road, Redeemer United Church of Christ sits empty, waterlogged, but the congregation makes do with services at a nearby bowling alley. Followed by a fundraiser.
Part of the money that we are raising with the meal, with the auction, and that will also benefit flood victims and people in the area.
Besides money, what's needed here is time to fix roads torn apart like jigsaw puzzles and clear streets buried under the rubble. Till then, these residents say, one step at a time. Tiffany Mock, KSAT 12 News.
EMS! EMS! EMS!
We know everybody. We knew every person we were going to get. And there were so many of them, it was just so overwhelming.
October 17th, 1998. Lavernia Fire Chief Kip Workman won't soon forget.
This truck was sent out to rescue some people on Dry Hollow Road.
But the water proving just too much.
The water got up to about this point, and the truck just wouldn't go anymore.
This truck goes in to help. Its skeleton now sits by the road, a haunting symbol of Mother Nature's fury. And at tonight's high school homecoming game, another symbol. This one of resurgence.
We're thankful for what we went through this past week, that nobody was hurt real bad.
Disaster that we had and everything, I guess brought us all a little bit closer to help everybody else out.
The future is very important. We'll build it up and we'll all still be together when everything is done.
The future also means lessons learned.
Somebody comes and tells you to leave, they're not crying wolf. You need to leave, because my people were put in danger to go and get people that were warned.
Be more prepared. Oh no, expect the unexpected, I guess.
Michelle Lima, KSAT 12 News.
This tunnel was John Newsom's prison during the flood.
I was totally submerged in water over my head.
As he tried to save a motorist trapped on this street, Newsom became the victim.
And then the current just grabbed me and twisted me around and sucked me down through here.
Through this drain, more than 100 feet, he says he held his breath for a minute and a half.
All we do is see the guy's head disappear.
This dentist across the street watched in disbelief. Newsom came out alive on the other side.
I told him he cheated death. I mean, for somebody to go through what he did, I don't know if anybody could hold their breath in a swimming pool and go under that distance.
Newsom credits swimming laps and practicing holding his breath for his survival and a sudden calmness that came over him.
Why do you think you felt that calmness?
I believe, actually, God was with me.
Newsom, not a religious person before, now has a strong belief in God and a new sense of purpose. He wants to volunteer and help people.
Well, I just consider myself lucky, one of the luckiest people in this world.
Holly Weymouth, KSAT 12 News.
For rich and for poor, for better, for worse.
Jackie and Joel, a love story that ends with better, but begins...
That's my fiance in the church.
...on a dark and stormy night.
There's a frightened young lady with her bridesmaids in that church.
The bride stranded at the altar, just 3 blocks, but suddenly a river away.
I'm thinking, okay, God, we've been together for 9 years, and on the one day we're supposed to get married, this happens.
Floodwater is rising fast, so is fear.
They can't tell us where they are. They don't know where they are.
Once the water started rising and it started getting dark, my biggest fear was that they weren't going to see us in the dark.
I started walking down you know, through the water, wading through the water. And when I got about chest deep, the current started to push me.
He's going to get the boat.
Went and got us a boat.
We came from the bridge and the barricades over there. We couldn't get the boat in over there. Yeah.
Current too strong.
Joe, be careful, Joe.
Oh, that's so sweet. I have to marry this man, so.
A rescue raft brings the little bridesmaids to safety.
He's still down there. He's still down there.
But Joel is still frantic to see his bride. Rescuers advise against using the boat.
Just give us a chance. I would just like to know where she is. Is she safe? Y'all can't even tell me that.
Help, help, we're over here, we're over here. By the time we left out of the church, it was about waist deep.
Here comes the bride, floating down the aisle.
Jackie!
Jackie! That's my wife. Get the hell with that.
Better for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
The flood of record. It's a term that designates the '98 flood as the worst San Antonio has ever suffered.
Now, many here wonder if the city was really ready this time, and will we be ready if there's a next time? City leaders have some answers to those haunting questions.
From the rains to the ringing out.
From beginning to end, things have worked pretty well.
That's Mayor Peake's rain gauge. He credits flood control projects which began after the other big one in 21.
We hadn't had the dam here. Almost all of San Antonio would have been flooded.
Almost dam. It's never handled this much water. Engineers say it worked as designed. Once the floodgates opened, the tunnels were put to the test. This new $111 million project sent billions of gallons under downtown instead of through it. One problem, though, large amounts of bulky debris clogged capacity. Still, the mayor says the tunnels kept several feet of water out of downtown. The area, though, is not flood-free.
The city needs to work on its drainage problems. That's it.
Which car's yours?
Truck up in the front.
The mayor says there is room for improvement, such as fine-tuning the city's warning system.
Nobody thought the water would get as high as it did. They said, well, we've lived here for 30 years, and we knew that it would get to a certain point, and that was all it was. And they did not want to leave their houses.
Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Though it is often painful to look back and see all the images of the terrible flooding, it is now a part of our history. So we not only look back on the devastation and the death, but we also look forward with hopes for better times and hopes that this disaster will make us all stronger as a community.
We'll remember not just the tragedy, but also the humanity, how our neighborhoods and communities suffered together and reached out to help those who needed it the most. While many hearts were broken, many more were opened. It's the spirit we share, the special bond that brings out our best when things are worst.
So this video is for all those who suffered from the flood and for all those who helped ease that suffering, for those who faced the danger with courage, and those who fought the floods, risking their lives to save others. For all those who have the hope to rebuild, and all those who have the heart to help them.
We here at KSAT 12 are proud to be a part of San Antonio and all of South Texas, and proud to join in the effort to help recover and rebuild together.